Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Addict Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited. From the moment I wake up till the instant I go to sleep, as most of you know, my day is crazy full. I often share my schedules on good old Instagram, but for those of you who don't know, I am running 3 inspiring businesses. I have 3 gorgeous children running around the house constantly. And in between helping them with school, creating alone time with the D, and also carving out some solo soul time for myself, there is basically no room left in the day for anything else. I really do know how it feels when I load up on unhealthy foods, and it's not a great look. I don't have time to stress about these added fillers or sugars or whether my food will actually make me and my family feel good and be nutritious. And that's what I love about Philosophy Superfoods and why I started this company. I know that they are trustworthy, that they are packed with high-vibe antioxidants, minerals, adaptogens that all help me deal with what the world throws at me each day. I love my life. I love my children and my jobs, and I want to be able to really thrive in all of these things and put on a bunch of different hats and roll with the punches. And Philosophy Superfoods really allows me and supports me in wearing all those hats. If you would like to stock up on our Philosophy Superfoods, which are always organic, raw, incredibly sourced nutrients, use the code IGNITED, that's IGNTD, to stock up for you and your loved ones. You and your body will feel so grateful for it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships Podcast. I'm Addict Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we've got a dear, dear friend. And man, Sophie, you had to rally for this. It's been a heavy couple of weeks, maybe even like a month for you.
Yeah, my stress took over and my body shut down. So it was really like a stress-induced sickness, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I had to because I have 3 kids, and it was really, really rough and a slow recovery. So take care of yourselves out there. I am way more tuned in now to the stress response in my body and knowing what it feels like now when I start to feel something is off. And I wouldn't have missed this interview for anything. Melissa is our, as Aditi said, close friend. We love her. We love her family. I love her workouts. It's been a really big game changer around here as I have such little motivation to work out, and Melissa's workouts are really, really short and sweet, which I love. And that's what I'm all about right now, is efficiency with my time and energy. So definitely check out her app. But yeah, we get into some really deep stuff in this episode. As Melissa said on her stories on Instagram, she said it was like a therapy session with us, and it was. So you guys get to peek in and be,
Well, I think we love when we get guests to open up about things they don't normally talk about. And you mentioned Melissa's app and her workouts, and I think that's what people know her, but they don't know sometimes the depth and the experience of what it's like to be a mother of multiple kids and living in New York in the middle of all this insanity. And so I love that we got to open up that much about her relationships, and really Melissa went really deep on some shame, my whole F-shame mentality, and it's so much of what I do. And so I'm really proud of Melissa for going there, talking about how, you can be this statuesque model, beautiful woman and be struggling daily and for decades, maybe even, with deep, deep shame and feelings of worthlessness. I thought that was a really cool part of what we talked about.
Absolutely. And just knowing that, we oftentimes put someone in this place of like, oh, they're perfect or they have the perfect life. And we talk about that all the time. Like, people say that to us and we laugh out loud because we are so far from that. And Melissa's an example in this episode of just sharing struggles and, how she got out of it, which is really the most important thing. And we talk about her meditation. We talk about real change comes from taking action, not talking about it. And she talks about a really challenging conversation with her husband and letting go of being perfect. Like, this is a huge theme. If you want to get something done, you've got to let go of being perfect. And same thing goes with my company. The amount of money and mistakes that I have put into philosophy on like labels that have typos and you know what? It's okay. It's no big deal because at least I have that product out there and I'm selling it and it's doing well and I'm living my dreams, as opposed to obsessively waiting until something is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And she talked about something you wouldn't know anything about being a mom.
Yes. We talk about how she feels being a mama of 2 adorable little kids, running her own business. She now has a team around her, but that she still doesn't have time for herself very often, but she makes time for herself to meditate, even a few moments throughout the day, and how it can really serve as a reset.
Totally. And something we know intimately is the work that she needs to put to connect to her husband and to still find a place and room for intimacy, especially right now, especially during Corona, especially during this limitation. And actually, their whole work-life balance totally flipped. And I don't want to give it away, but she shares some really interesting changes that have happened for them over the last 7-8 months and how they've been able to overcome them and thrive during this time. And I think all of us can use more and more tips to figure out how to thrive during this really challenging time.
Yeah, and just looking to people that inspire you. She really inspires so many because she comes from that honest, authentic place of not having to be perfect. Sometimes you hear a baby crying in the background of her workouts, etc. Very similar to the way Adi and I are. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting the information out there, helping people to grow and help them to feel inspired, whatever that might be in whatever category.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Melissa, for doing this. You guys are going to love this interview. And, as usual, take a few moments while you're listening to this to actually write down some tips and tricks that you can use in your own life. Because just like Sophie was challenged for the last few weeks, guarantee some of you are out there right now having a hard time in the moment right now while you're listening. Lots of tips to follow here.
And just remember that on the other side of that struggle, if you are sitting in the muck and you're sitting in the darkness and you are struggling right now, as I am, as many people are, know that on the other side of that, you can trust is beauty, is growth, is this amazing, goodness, that euphoria that comes with growth and stretching and expansion. Thanks, Melissa. Everyone, let us know how you like it. And here you go.
See you in a minute. Welcome, everybody, to the conversation part of today's amazing podcast. We have a dear friend here with us today, Melissa Wood. Mm-hmm. I always want to call everybody by their freaking Instagram handles at this point, but I'm not going to today because, I'll never forget. I remember we met at the first Revitalize that I ever went to for My Body Green.
Me too.
Five or six years ago at this point.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But first of all, thank you so much for being with us, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and an honor. And you two were like, when I was at that Mind Body Green event, I was like, I want to be friends with them. There was just like a vibe, and I manifested you into my life.
You spoke, didn't you open for them?
I think that's the one that I opened.
Was that the year you were there? He opened for them? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was fun. That was my first entry into that world, to be honest. I was always in like the more academic world. And it was really fun to enter this more spiritual, holistic wellness world.
Me too, by the way. That was the
amazing.
First thing that I ever did. It was honestly such a turning point for me. It was the first thing I'd ever done alone. I went all by myself. And I remember when I showed up and I was like, on the plane, I'm like, you're doing this. Like, yes, look at you. You're so confident. And then I showed up and I was like, what the actual fuck were you thinking coming to this event by yourself?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I immediately turned in and I was like, what are you thinking? You shouldn't be here. Like, who are you? You don't even, and I just went into this tunnel. And then I had to get out of it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well,
it was an interesting step for me.
For us, we talk about so many different topics, but for us, one of the things that we really love focusing on is relationships, and specifically that that part of our life where Sophie just shared right before we went on air about the parts that other people don't really see and don't have an entryway into. And so if you don't mind, I actually want to dig in. When you said I did it alone, are you talking like without Noah, without your partner? Is that the world you're mentioning?
Yeah, I literally, I think everything in my life that I had ever done, it was like with someone, or I think I was always afraid of being alone. And Noah and I, we had been dating, and I was like, listen, there's this wellness event and it's something I really want to go to. And I was almost expecting him to be like, well, I'm going to come and you can't go by yourself, because I was so used to dating that guy and like having those like codependent relationships. And he was like, you have to go. Like, you have to go to this. If this is really what you love and you want to do, like, book your ticket and go. And I was like, oh my God, like, is that what love, like, is that really what love is? It symbolized so much for me because I need my freedom. Like, I need to feel like I can go and do things as I please without having someone kind of hover over me, which was most of, my past relationships. And then having Noah just be like, you have to go. And it wasn't even like, who's going to be there? Can I come? It was like, he gave me that space. And then, like I said, like once I arrived there, I was like, do I even have enough followers to be here? I mean, I was in such a different mindset at that point in my life. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. How many years ago? It was 6 years ago.
I think so, 6 years ago, yeah.
Right. It was because I've been doing really what I'm doing now for 5 years. And I remember at like the cocktail hour, and I was just so uncomfortable in my skin because I didn't have a label attached to me or a title. And
so I want to,
yeah.
So many people listening right now are stuck in that place that you're mentioning. So I just want to pause for a second, because I think what would be really amazing, there's so many elements to what you're talking about, like the self-discovery in your own, the ability to reach out and do things that are challenging, having a partner that supports you in doing those things, versus not. And so maybe if we can, I really want to go to the where did it go later and how amazing it got. But I want to sit in this for a moment, because you were saying that a lot of your past relationships weren't like that. And, this event was a curated event. There were only like 200, 250 people, and they were hand selected to show up. I mean, if I can, it was like the relatively biggest names in wellness, like Matthew Kenny. There are all these amazing people that we know and are now like dear friends, really elevated people, both in terms of what they're doing, literally their level of fitness, their level, like beautiful, amazingly successful people, like show up to this massive, amazing hotel in the middle of Arizona. And yet you're sitting there as part of that group, not feeling like you belong. And I think for a lot of people who follow you or pay attention to what you do, there's like this chasm, right? There's a separation between those two. So can you dig a little bit into what were those in the past relationships? What was it in your past life that brought you to a place like that, not feeling like you fit in?
Well, I think it was the mindset and like this state that I lived in at that time in my life. It was like constant comparison mode, and seeing people who looked like on the outside that they had it together and knew what they were doing, and it was like, who are you? What do you? Well, I'm a teacher. And it was just, there was this almost like this inner knowing, and I didn't have any of those things. So going to an event like that, where there's a lot of confidence, there's a lot of people who are, they own their space and everything. And I was in such an in-between time, but something within me was like, you know what, this is an opportunity for you to maybe like explore something and see if I get this sense of connectivity and from people in this space. And to be honest, I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be these people who I looked up to. It's like, I just remember, like, I could literally tell, I mean, it's sick. Like I used to know how many followers people had. And I'd be like, well, she has like so many followers. Like, of course she's not going to want to be friends with me. It's sad, but it's really the truth. And then I had a breakthrough moment the Saturday night. The Friday night was like uptight. So like, what do you do? I do this. And it was like, I had my whole like skit down.
Like
and then the whole shtick. And then the second night, I was so sick and tired of pretending, of being someone I wasn't. And I said it to, who did I say it to? It will come to me. But I was like, someone was like, what do you do? And I was like, I don't fucking know. I really don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I was like, I have been pretending for 24 hours and I'm so exhausted of faking it. Like, and then it was like, I could breathe. And then everything shifted. That was the night that I sat next to you guys. Mm-hmm. And there was like the performance, like there.
Yeah.
It was just, I let go of this thing that we are so quick to attach ourselves to, right? Of this like feeling like we're enough. And then just saying that, like, I was like, wait, you are me, I am you. Like, we are all the same freaking person. And it was like that. It was a huge moment for me. Like,
wow, what a shift.
Oh yeah.
What a quick shift you had too. Like, what a quick.
So sick of it.
You know what else? It's like the minute that you're alone with yourself and the minute that you give yourself that space, like it wasn't just a day, it was you traveling there. It started the minute you said yes, right? It started the minute that you said, I was invited to this thing. You went to Noah, you got his quote approval, right? Like your old behaviors of like, got to get the approval of the man or Yeah. God is approval. And I am this girl. I dated this man. So I was in that world where I was so controlled. And so everything had to ask permission. It's completely Looney Tunes now that I think about it, but it was my reality. So it started that moment when you got the invite and you said yes to yourself to even have the conversation with Noah. And then when you booked your flight then right? Like it's all of that was you saying, I choose myself and I'm going to face this stuff. I know it's not cute. I know that there's some stuff I need to deal with, but I'm going to keep saying yes and keep taking chances and risks. And then you go to the airport that day and then you sit on the plane alone. It's a 5-hour flight. You're just like,
with people I didn't know. I was like, this is so uncomfortable. I roomed with a girl I didn't know. I literally did everything that was so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable. And that's something we focus on in this podcast.
Yes. I almost didn't go to the event. I was like, this, like, I'm just going to go sit by the pool and like, I'll just swim, I'll tan. This is a great break. I didn't need to be here. And then I was like, girl, like, you have to go. Like,
and it's a choice. It's a choice. And you are leaning, again, we talk about this all the time, leaning into the discomfort, sitting in your own shit. And you're like, I don't want to sit in my shit. It's stinky and gross. And I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. And then you do. And then you keep doing it because you know that's where the growth is.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is what has me doing what I'm doing here today. It's like, I think thankfully through my commitment to self in this practice, it has opened my eyes to the awareness of all my shit and why I have to keep coming back to it or else I'm really scared of what I would do.
Yeah.
Really,
I think for those of us who've been in that place for a while, it's nearly impossible. Well, maybe not nearly. It's impossible to imagine going back to a place where we don't listen to that internal voice. But I definitely remember having a time in my life where I never listened to that internal voice and I was always trying to impress everybody. I saw in one of your recent posts, you were like rolling out your mat or whatever, sharing about how this is the last thing you wanted to do in that day. And I think there's, as you were setting up to record a new workout or whatever, and the power, and I think what I want people to take from this moment is don't believe that the outcome was the process, right? Like the hard work that it takes to get where people want to get doesn't look as pretty as the outcome. And that's just okay. It's just fine, right? You can be scared on the plane. You don't have to get on the plane and go, oh my God, I'm doing this for the first time. I'm so excited. You can be scared.
Right.
And just do it and just get there and feel like I want to just lay by the pool, but I'm going to go to one talk and feel like you have to answer people's questions the way they're rehearsed. But then one time just say to somebody, you know what? I don't know, man. I've been telling people that I'm a teacher, but really I've barely been teaching, or whatever the thing is that gets you to sink in deeper. And it's like a stretch. Like you guys do yoga and stretch, like it's like a stretch. You're not going to, when you start out stretching, you're not going to be able to touch your toes or lay flat on the ground.
It's not even easeful always. Like stretching hurts some people.
Yeah.
Totally. It hurts.
Yeah.
And it hurts to do something uncomfortable, and it hurts to tell the truth right away. And it does get easier over time. The more you stretch, the easier it is. The more yoga you do, the easier yoga becomes. The more adventures you go on solo, the more adventures become easier. But it's never just constantly, consistently joyful and easy. That isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
No. And that's honestly what is so important for me to share is, because I also think right now people are so sick of the curated shit, like the curated, pre-planned, everything's pretty. They want the real stuff and they want to know. And this is what has always drawn me to you, Sophie, and to both of you, is that you share things like as they are, but as it really is, right? And for me, I think people think that I'm this, super meditative, peaceful being, while I work really hard to find these elements within myself. I'm not that person. I'm actually rather reactive and can be quite judgmental. And I work daily to shift my perspective towards myself and the way that I see things. And literally, like today I have that come over me where I'm like screaming at my kids this morning. And I'm like, you would think this work would just come over me and I'd stop screaming at my kids. Like, why am I raising my voice? I was yelling at them. I wasn't raising my voice. I was fully yelling. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed. Like, I haven't been alone. Like, I haven't been by myself. And you know what I mean? And then I just went into this like spiral where I was like, I just need a minute. Like, I just need to like, maybe not have a plan or a schedule or like a person in front of me or just fucking go for a walk, like be alone.
Yeah. So, that's where the medicine is. Yeah. And I resonate with every single thing you're saying. It's like the things in our lives, if we don't allow space, if there's no space, there's no magic. How can you have perspective? How can you, that's where the magic is the space.
Oh my God. I need space. Like I really do. And I think clearly I haven't been giving myself enough of that. And I think it's like today, it really hit me. I to cry on this. I was like, I feel like I need to cry. And like,
good.
Doing this with you guys, like I knew.
Well, it's cathartic. It's cathartic to talk about what you need. And I bawled my eyes out last night. I'm going through something related to stress right now. I got a COVID test. I'm like, I'm dying. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm falling apart. So all last week, it hit me Thursday through almost Sunday. I was horizontal in my bed. The shades had to be drawn. I couldn't handle anything. And I kept saying like, there's something wrong. I don't know what's wrong. It doesn't feel like a panic attack. It doesn't feel the same as anxiety. What is it? I have canker sores all in my mouth. Wow. I can't eat. I cry when I eat. I have like this. I went to the dentist yesterday. Long story short, I am just stressed. It's just stress. It's just stress.
That's what that was. And like,
well, and also, I was talking to somebody about this, one of my clients just a couple of days ago, and we've now taken for granted this quarantine thing. We've like adapted to it, even though we're not being bombed. It's not like being in World War II, but it's a constant undercurrent of stress. I mean, you're in New York, it's even deeper than it is here, but it's just this constant undercurrent. And so you wake up and you don't start at 0 stress. You should wake up at like a 4 out of 10. And we just have taken that for granted because that's the place that we live in. And so definitely to recognize that our needs are different than they were 8 months or 9 months ago is an incredibly important thing for all of us. Because it is the reality for right now, and we're going to have to adjust. I know you guys just went down. You talked it was brief, but it was so powerful about this almost like permission, but this freedom that you had in this relationship that didn't mirror a lot of other relationships in the past. And obviously now, for those who don't know yet, because they're going to be following you in 5 seconds if they don't already, you guys are married, you've got two kids now, so it worked out.
Giving you at work, and as you know.
Oh, always. But I want to dig in on that a little, because I feel like the freedom that you felt permission to pursue there, which was like, hey, I don't really know what I want to do, but I really I'm drawn to that event and I got invited, I want to go. The freedom to say, hey, I'm not going to hold you back. I'm not jealous. I don't have to watch over you. That's what I heard in the description you meant. It's always so interesting to me. I know Sophie's story, and now I'm hearing this kind of a similar story from you of what it feels like before, as you feel, what it sounds like is, you said codependent, but like, I hear trapped almost. I feel like being trapped in past relationships. I know that was part of the story for you, Soph.
Yeah.
And then this emergence out of it, because I think we've done so much work with so many couples at this point, and I feel like so many people feel trapped or feel as if the types of relationships they've gotten in the past are this inescapable pattern. This is just what's going to repeat, even if you know you're unhealthy in it. So if you don't mind a little bit, and yes, always work, and always a work in progress, and something that we're striving to improve. But I'm also wondering it on both ends. Like, what was it in the past that you feel like you didn't get, or you were looking for in relationships and was never there? And then what in the leap to this other relationship allowed you for this massive freedom that you've talked about over the last 5 years that developed into kind of this new, like Melissa 2.0?
Yeah, definitely. I was definitely the girl who thought you needed a man in your life, and that your worth and your value really went down if you did not have a man with you, or, I think truly like doing everything with you. And, it stems a lot from my upbringing. My mom and my dad, there's 5 girls in my family, and my dad remarried, had my son. And my mom, when she was dating, it was this almost like this need, this like desperation for a man, where it's like, when my mom didn't have a man in her life, she wasn't good. It was like things were not good mentally, physically, nothing. And, and it was like you could breathe when there was a man around in her life. And I think I really took that on, as far as just feeling almost protected, and that I had someone to, go about this life with. And then I've had some great past relationships, but I think it was a lot of me always feeling this need. It's like, oh, you're going home to your mom's. Well, I was super clingy. And I think that also bled into the way that they were with me. It's like, oh, you're going home. Well, I'll come, and it was like this, I never had this space to just like be, and to like discover who I was. And after I ended my last relationship before Noah, was the first time I lived alone. I moved into an apartment by myself. And that was when, my eating disorder was at its peak, because I had to, for the first time in my life, live with myself and all my stuff, and it kept coming up. And then meeting a man like Noah, who's so confident in who he is, and he saw something. I'm so emotional today. I knew this was going to happen. He saw something in me that, he helped pull this confidence within me. And I mean, I was a mess when we started dating, and I really wanted to find so badly like what it is that I wanted to do and like who I was. And he just kept saying, he was like, you know, if you ask less and you just keep listening and you experiment, you try things on. He's like, it's one day it's going to happen. It's, you know, he was the type of guy who would like jump out of bed and he was always so happy. And I was not. I was like laying in bed, hitting snooze, never wanted to get up out of my bed because I dreaded my day. And I thought that was normal. Like I thought most people hated their job. They hated what they did, but they did it for money. And, you know, at this point I was modeling for so many years and constantly being measured, truly, like
literally.
Yes, literally. And I was so over it. I knew that there was so much more within me to give. And it was truly the fact that I think Noah was really calm and like peaceful and easeful about the way that he helped me almost like blossom in my own sense. Like I almost became a woman when I was with him because he gave me so much space with myself. And he's also like, we don't like text each other during it. Like we're the opposite of clingy, and we give each other so much space. He also needed that space because he had so many businesses and he was always so busy. And I on the other hand was like, okay, I mean, like we're not doing dinner tonight, you know, like, and I just had to discover myself. So it was almost like being single, but in a relationship, if that makes sense.
That's amazing.
And it was like exactly what I needed, because I think, you know, my dad wasn't really around growing up, but to have this man in my life who was like such a powerful source, and then that I loved, that like loved me for me and I loved him for him, just it was without a doubt. And I think I never share this, and I'm so happy to have this conversation because I always say without this work and this commitment, I wouldn't be where I am. But if I didn't make the choice to make Noah my life partner, I don't think I would be here doing this work. I really think he gave me something in my life that I never had and I always needed, which is love and support.
Yeah. I completely relate. I mean, it's my story is very different. Like I had a lot of time alone. My parents were divorced. My mom was not really around a lot, a million jobs. But I definitely, because of that 5-year relationship I had, that was really abusive and crazy and controlling. I tried to be strong as long as I could, but it eventually penetrated and I couldn't avoid it. And I was like a scared kitten. And although I still had like that confidence in some ways, when it came around like sexuality, men, any of that kind of stuff,
or the concept of freedom, like just the idea that you have freedom was almost taken away from you.
Yeah. So I completely relate. And I met Adi really young. I was 20 and he was 28. And I didn't know myself. Like I knew parts of myself, but who knows themselves really at 20? You just don't.
No.
And then like everyone's heard our story if they're listening now, but it's like, I always say like, we've had 3 different iterations of our relationship, but like, where most people have like this time to be free and this time to discover themselves and this time to date a million people. And this time we went through all of that at the same time. So over our 16 years of knowing each other, it's like we've dated different versions of each other, but they've helped me become the next version of who I am because it's so supportive. And it's like that lotus, like in the gunk and and we went through it was a lot because we went through it together.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I remember when you guys released your podcast on, I don't know
our
what
story
is, but your real personal struggle. And I was like, literally, I was probably the first listener. And I was mind blown by how you guys always say this, but radically transparent. And I was like, just awed by the honesty. And really the overcoming of the obstacle, right? It's like, it's easy to just throw in the towel and just who's next? And by the way, that's the mentality I grew up with. It was like, this isn't working. No, I'm done.
Yeah.
There was no working through. And Noah was like, first of all my old tools of responding to arguments, he was like, first of all, no, we don't get it. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You won't.
Because he came from that place of self-worth.
Like, screaming? What are you talking about? And I was like, how do we communicate?
Yeah. And we have to learn. We learn through our experiences. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe we can ride that train for a little bit because, again, you said radical transparency, and obviously that's something we're big on here. And for us, people use you, Melissa. They use us. They use other people that I'm putting this in air quotes for people who can't watch this clip. They use these role models as examples of what life needs to be like. And for me,
it should be like,
the problem with us pretending that everything is fine is that people then believe that if their life doesn't work out that way, if they and their partner don't have the best sex and make all the time for each other constantly, and if their kids are not always smiling and saying yes ma'am and yes sir and you know, keeping their elbows off the table, then there's something wrong with them. And that's not what I see.
What I was going to say is, so Melissa was saying, yes, there is the reality that we're sharing things that most people do just give up on, at least publicly. They say, oh, there was cheating. Okay, then I'm going to leave my partner, of course, because once a cheater, always a cheater, or whatever it might be, right? So they throw in the towel, as you were saying. But the other part to it is that Adi and I, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, I don't want to just like be on the other side to things. I want to share my process. I want other people to know what it feels like to be, that I know what it felt like. None of it was easy for me. I've not been dealt a set of hands that was easy. I have friends that like things come pretty easy to them. That's not me. I can manifest beautiful things, but it takes a lot of work. And I think for us, you know, if we have a new babysitter and they're like, God, you guys are so perfect. Your children are perfect. And we're like, honey.
We're like, hey, sweetie.
Yeah. Listen to this podcast, sweetheart. No, send her a link.
Give me one more weekend.
But that's part of it. And I think that that's part of the importance in being radically transparent for us. It's not just, yes, it's helped us heal from so much lack of communication, hurt, pain, all of that. But that radical transparency for everyone else then allows them to see there's this other side to this amazing relationship, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it's so funny. Sophie, it almost brings me back to the live that we did. Remember, I think we FaceTime before, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in this food journey and I'm like not plant-based, but like am plant-based on social media, but like I'm eating other things. And you were like, you're going to give people the freedom. And I was like, yes, like it's so true. It gives others the freedom and to just be and to let things be messy and not perfect. And I mean, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I'm always
I love that term.
working. I am. And it's like, it's so deep within me when it's like, I cringe if something's not aesthetically pleasing and I'm like, get over it. Like there's so many more important things. And it's something I actively have to work at, but it's like a breath of fresh air to be able to see that with other people and to relate and connect on this level.
Hey, we're interrupting this episode to talk to you about a new GoDaddy podcast that we're so excited to share with you.
It's called School of Hustle, and in it, you're going to hear real stories from entrepreneurs who are building the businesses of their dreams and everything that it takes to get it done.
This is so important to us because we've founded and run several businesses, and hearing stories from other entrepreneurs has been our saving grace along this journey. It's how we've avoided a lot of unnecessary mistakes and learned from others who have had success.
You can go right now and listen and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts to get real strategies that you can use to help your business thrive. Now go hustle.
had a few instances in the shower last night where like things were going wrong and I'm in pain and like all this stuff. And I just am just noticing, even in the smallest things, the difference in my response and reaction. And I don't meditate all the time. I love that you do. And I want to hear more about the type of meditation you do. But for me, it's the space within the space. We talk about space and healing earlier. It's the space between the response and the reaction and the action. So there's the thing that happens, and then there's that response or reaction that you have. And just through the years of being alone and figuring and having that time to yourself, you then get to observe yourself, and there's more space, and you just take a deeper breath, whatever that looks like for you. And just, when something like my favorite shampoo had like nothing in it and it was left completely empty. And I was just like, this is my one time in the week I'm washing my hair. And I like, in old me would have like gotten out of the shower and yelled at the kids or yelled at a D or whatever and been like, that's not, mommy only washes her. It's not a big deal though, right? I'll just get a new bottle and like, whatever, it's funny. I'll use the Honest baby shampoo. It's fine. But
I use that when it runs out.
But it's like, it's just noticing ourselves in these moments. And then it starts to grow into bigger and bigger and bigger, and just showing up to things, giving yourself more grace in terms of perfectionism.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to have a perfect relationship because we don't.
Right. Oh no. Noah and I most definitely do not. I don't share him a lot because he doesn't love it, but it's nice to be able to share here where he'll never listen to this.
I love it.
I always say, I'm like, I'm so happy that you don't read any of my like blog posts or listen to any podcasts.
That's funny. I do want to, and this isn't like, I'm not trying to dig up dirt. I don't want to get into anything that you're not comfortable sharing, but I wonder if you don't mind you mentioned like you went from this place of being in each other's business all the time in old relationships, and now there's all this freedom. Yeah. I'm assuming there was growth, there was discomfort. It might've been nice to have the room to grow into, but you were talking about your old patterns would come up, etc. You were somebody that were used to a lot of time with your partners and not really being separate. And all of a sudden you were separate more. It comes up to child rearing, right? When you have kids and you have maybe different ways of growing up. Would you mind talking about some of those for you, just like your own growth through this? And how did you come up with compromises? How do you bridge this gap?
So I learned very quickly that, being with a man like Noah, you have to be a really strong woman, right? It's like he works in hospitality. He is around attractive women 99% of the time when nightclubs were open or restaurants, and he would host tables, and I worked for Noah, and I would go to these dinners. Like, I'm well aware of what they are like. So instead of me hyper focusing on like what he's doing, who he's with, I'm not there. I took this as an opportunity because I really trusted him. Right. So it was like there was this initial trust with this man that I had never experienced before. And I turned inward. I mean, it's like I learned
Mm-hmm.
how to like myself, and then, through liking myself, how to love myself. And I, since I've been with Noah, I did my yoga teacher training, my Pilates teacher training. I've done meditation workshops. I've gone on the wellness retreats, and it gave me this opportunity where like I could have gone into spiral mode, wondering who's there if I have to work the next day and I can't go to this dinner or whatever it is. And I chose not to focus on those things because I knew he chose me and I chose him. And I also, it's like, I knew it. Like, I think working as a cocktail waitress, it's like, I knew what it was. I didn't give a shit about it, and I knew what that experience looked like. And I almost turned so inward to the point where it's like, okay, you have a partner and you have to also prioritize your partner. And it's not just like, I'm in this, it's through that I got to a place where I stopped modeling. And then I I started coaching clients one-on-one when I was working as a health coach. And then I always knew there was something else, but I didn't know what the hell it was. And then I just had this awakening this day after taking a class where I just didn't feel good. I didn't like the teacher's vibe. And I was like, I just want to take a class with a teacher that makes me feel good. And I was like, it just hit me. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a teacher. I want to teach people to feel good in their bodies and, find peace in their mind, but still have like a killer body. And like, how can I do this? And it was never like, I want to create this business. It really all intuitively started to flow through me the more I got to know myself and the more I started to listen and trust myself. But because Noah was so busy, it gave me all of this space to me that I never had. I never had growing up too. It's like I was always like the mini mom. I was always looking after my sisters, trying to take care of things, working to provide and help in any way that I could. So it was almost like this time with myself, like I said, feeling single, but in a relationship. And it's like I fell in love with myself again. And I started to just follow through with the things, because I was full of ideas. I always had ideas and I always had things, but I did not know how to execute because I was so afraid. I always stood in my own way. And I always thought everybody else was doing it better. And why it's like the space is so saturated. And it was Noah. I'm really giving Noah a lot of shout out and credit.
Maybe he should listen to this episode.
Maybe he should listen to this one. We were on this trip. This was, many years ago. We were in Florence and we were in the hotel room. Benjamin, I was still breastfeeding him. So he must have been like 10 months old. And it was our first trip away. And I remember I was like sitting on the bed with a coffee and he was sitting in the chair across from me. And I was talking about all of the stuff I wanted to do. When I tell you to a T exactly what I'm doing now, I was like, I have a site and I'm going to start sharing my workouts. And then, maybe one day it could be an app. And it was like this whole thing. But meanwhile, I wasn't really doing it. It was like, I was like testing the waters. And Noah was like, you know what, babe, like all I ever hear you do is talk about everything that you want to do, but I never see you do it. And I was crushed. First of all, I want to break up with that's like I was like leaving him.
Of course.
Gone. I like, whenever something didn't go my way, I was done. It was like, I locked myself in the bathroom for 2 hours, cried, was like plotting my escape. And then we had to go to the wedding and I had to show up for the weekend. And then it hit me when we got home that night. I was like, he's right. All I ever do is talk about everything. Like I don't have it's like, he called me out on my shit. So I started doing it was like, I started working with, on building a site. It was not the best site. It was the worst site I've ever had, but I built it and I got it up and then I showed it to him when it was done. And he was like, you're doing it. And, I think too, when you grow up from a big family where there's not, it's like, my parents were doing what they could to freaking survive on top of having kids and, not being financially stable. And they really did the best that they could, but they didn't give us that like undivided attention that children really need. Yeah. And it was like Noah being able to say that to me. It was like, I mean, in school, I never applied myself. I cheated. I never had to. It was like, I always kind of got by being friendly and like using my charm. But it was the first time that I applied myself and that I started to realize that I was smart. Like I was always afraid that I wasn't smart enough, that I didn't have anything to bring to the table because I didn't have a college education. And, I went to a community school, but it's like, when I graduated, everyone was going away to school and I was so embarrassed that I wasn't. And the best thing that I didn't, like that wasn't for me. And I think it's, for anyone listening that thinks like it needs to be this way. I did the complete opposite of what everyone did. And I think it was, thank God that I did that. But, I have street smarts and I was able to find my way through carving this path and through, I mean, thank God, like people like Noah and listening to myself and just connecting to all of the things that keep lifting me higher.
Yeah. And so beautiful to hear that there's these pendulum swings, right? Like on the way to doing exactly what you were meant to do was 2 hours of crying in the bathroom about your partner just holding a mirror up to your face and like, this is what you're doing right now. You know, and it's like, and sometimes it crushes you, but sometimes you need that bell. Like you need your bell rung and somebody go like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
How dare he?
Oh, I was so mad at him. And then it was like, those are the people I want in my life.
Those are the only people I want in my life now.
Person who's like, you know what, the way you just spoke to her, I want those people.
Yep.
Because those are the people that help you expand and really help you grow into your truest potential. And it's Noah is definitely that person for me.
Yeah, this is that thing we tell you guys all the time about. We have this lie that we were told over and over and over growing up where conflict is bad. Stay out of conflict. You shouldn't have conflict. If somebody disagrees with you, it's not the right thing. Go the other way. If you know, that's what we learn over and over. And so we walk around like scared little animals in this world. And every time we bump up against somebody, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And we run the other way. And conflict, what we found over and over, and I'm not saying not screaming. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about yelling and like aggressive fighting. I'm talking about conflict, friction.
Right.
It's the place where you find growth. Always. So it's almost like it's the opposite. You almost have to seek it and it'll constantly help you improve because you will find things that need to get better that you didn't even realize need to get better.
Oh my God. Yes. I mean, it's anything that I have done to date that I was terrified of doing. Like, I'll never forget the first time I had to teach a class. I was purple. I was like, why am I so afraid I was so afraid to expose myself and for like, maybe not to remember a sequence. It was like the perfection, right? And then through doing all of the things that I've been terrified, so afraid to do, it's like keeps cracking me wide open. Even these conversations, I mean, I've got emotional a few times, but these conversations were really hard for me to have and something I never wanted to share because I was afraid that it would show how imperfect I really was and that I grew up poor and had an eating disorder. And what I've learned is actually those are the things that make me me and that make me more approachable and to be able to connect with people because we're all fucking imperfect. You know, it's like we all have our stuff.
We're all flawed. Yeah. That's what makes us human.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing, like I've always connected with you guys too. It's like you gravitate towards that.
Yeah. And also just like the evolution of it all, like we're constantly evolving. There's only a few constants in life. And that's one of them, that and change, you know, like those things are like sitting in your stuff and having uncomfortable conversations. That's where the magic happens. That's where the diamonds come from. That's where the most favorite people on this planet, my closest friends, my husband, the people that I lean in with, and they're here and they're game and they're not afraid. And like, yes, we might both be nervous, but like we're doing it and we face each other and we're not afraid because what's on the other side is the most beautiful evolution to the next version of what our friendship relationship self is.
Oh my God. Yes. It's so true.
So I'm wondering about this because Sophie and I are really, really busy. We've got 3 kids and at least during Corona, we're in the same freaking house. So we see each other more than we used to, which is crazy. But how do you guys find time to connect? I mean, is Noah still traveling a lot? Like, how do you guys actually make the time? Because this is something we struggle with constantly, to actually create and make the time to connect intimately, physically, but also emotionally. Like, hey, we need this for our relationship to keep growing.
It's without a doubt one of our biggest challenges. And it's like one of those things I'm like, we have to prioritize it and we have to, but then everything gets in the way, right? And it always seems to be the thing that you're like, we'll do it the next night. So I think I'm sorry if you can hear that banging. I'm sorry. They just started the construction downstairs. Can you hear me okay?
We don't even hear
all the things.
We don't even hear it.
Okay, good. And I'll just get louder as they keep banging. I have to say that I take a lot of ownership since, it was always Noah was the busy one. Noah was the one with the thriving businesses, and it was, and I had stuff, but it was never to the magnitude that it is now. And now, like, Noah's businesses, unfortunately, and it's awful, they're struggling, right? It's like anyone in the hospitality business is struggling. And the silver lining of COVID is, most people are doing digital workouts and meditation. So, my business took a turn that I never in a million years could have ever imagined. And it happened, right, for both of us at the same time. And I think it's so, I'm so happy we're having this conversation, because it came over me today, like when I was walking back from dropping Benjamin at school, and I was like so upset with myself, the way that I was yelling at the kids, and I was just in a reactive, agitated mood. And it just, it's like, I need more space. I need to create more space. So for me, it's when Noah comes home, try to put my phone away. And it's so hard, because when he comes in is when I'm catching up on all my emails, doing all, responding to people on social media. And I think the thing that is working is when we do have dinner together, to just like put our phones away and try our best to do that. It's not always the easiest. Like last night, we were eating together, and he was like, I have to take this call. I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's fine. Like, it happens both ways.
Yeah.
It's not always going to go the way that you want it. And I think finding a flexible kind of approach instead of getting pissed off is what really helps. And then, I think for Noah and I too, we started meditating together a few times a week, and it's been really nice. Like when no one is home, like there's like a tiny little window some mornings when both of the kids are at school, and it's like that quick time block, and being able to like have that time. I mean, look, I'd love for it to be like dinner and a movie and all these things, but like I fall asleep during that. Like it's never what I want it to be. So being okay with even just like a little bit of time together has been really nice.
And looking at it differently, meditation is intimacy,
Yeah.
And
so
like,
intimate.
it doesn't have to be dinner and a movie. Like, just because that's what the movies tells us, like, I would much rather bond with him over a meditation or a yoga class.
By the way, it's the most intimate thing. And like, it gives you so much space to like.
What do you do? Do you hold hands? Do you sit next to each other? Like, how do you co-meditate?
It's like a knee touching.
I love it.
Like, I'm also like, I like need to meditate. So like, let me meditate. And then maybe after but I need to meditate right now.
Yeah.
Totally. No, but I love that. The reason I was asking for the specific is I want physical contact. Like I want, even if we're just holding hands or whatever during a meditation, like there definitely is an element for me about the contact that makes me feel like I'm with Sophie, because we'll be in the quote unquote same room sometimes for a couple of hours a day, because I'm in the kitchen or she's in the kitchen, I'm in the dining room, but there's no like coming together, and there's something that is special about that.
And we've struggled for so long. I mean, I've worked from home my entire career, and now he's been home for like 5 years working from home. And that was always a dream, but it's like, it doesn't mean that we get more intimate time with each other. It just means he's working from home in his office and I'm working from. So we have to actually, like for us, we love our walks. Like a few times a week, we'll take a walk. Like once the kids start school on Zoom, and then Noah goes to preschool or she's with our nanny, and then we can go on a walk and we can connect.
Coffee walks are the best.
Superfood coffee, cacao magic coffee.
No, I love that. Noah and I will take Benjamin to school together some mornings. And
that's the best.
That's really special. Like just being able to like talk to each other and walk home together is so nice.
Yeah. When we had Roger Nygaard.
Micro moments.
Yes,
yeah,
micro moments.
I love that term.
Just like a touch, like mid-lunch or like mid-call.
Yeah.
I like see you. I think it's
well, yeah. And I want to acknowledge that just so everyone hears, it's the micro moments. It's not a 25-minute meditation every day. She's saying catching 1 or 2 mornings a week in the pockets in between things to prioritize a 10-minute meditation sitting next to each other, or during the day, kissing a D, taking a D when he walks by me the 1200th time while I'm on my laptop and kissing him, connecting with him, giving him a hug instead of just being 2 passing ships, which happens when you're roommates, you live together, you're raising children together, you're building businesses. Life happens and you can be like 2 passing ships, or you can stop and take a micro moment and say, I love you. How's your day going? What was a win of this morning? How are you feeling? Right? Just something to connect to the actual intimate being that is your partner.
Oh yeah. I mean, understanding too, it's, oh God, my son might come in. I'm sorry. I just heard him. I thought they were going to go to the park. I love when things go as planned, right?
This is the new Corona reality. It's just what it is.
Literally. It's pushing every perfectionist.
Yeah.
If y'all don't understand, whoever is listening, please DM us.
Are they going to be able to see that I have to shoot a video after this with all the stuff on my bed?
It's great. It's perfect.
Well, we release audio only primarily, and then
some clips.
We might get little clips and stuff.
I kind of love it.
No, it's fine. I learned to let go. What did I want to say? Because this is really helpful. Understanding your partner's love language. I was always like, what? But it is, I have a lot of love languages. I'm like, I need words of affirmation. I need touch. I need everything. And Noah just needs to be touched.
Great.
He's like,
easy.
easy.
Check. Got you. Of course, we're the most complicated beings.
Sophie shifted too, by the way.
Mine
for everybody
changed.
listening, we had it figured out like 7 years ago, and then they changed. And I'm like, but wait, I did the thing. She's like, it's not that anymore.
And that's important too. Like, we are ever evolving, we're ever shifting, we're growing. So if so, you're not going to stay the same. And so, yes, physical touch for a long time, I needed that because I was that little kitty cat that was lost in the alleyway. I needed that attention and love, and I wanted to be pet and just held because I was so hurt and so, affected. Now I've got 3 kids and 3 businesses. I'm like, honey, I need you to help me do the dishes. I need you to not say a word. You get rid of all that recycling, the trash, and do not even look at me. That's just what you do because you love me. Don't look at me.
Love you too, baby. Love you too.
Just handle it.
True. And the other thing too that has really helped is communicating with your partner too when you need more.
Yes.
That is something that really, during the height of quarantine, Noah, it was like things were not good. No. It was the most amount of time we'd ever been around each other. And I was like, wait a second. Like, what? Like,
totally.
Do we like each other? And then it was because we had 2 kids, no help, 2 businesses. One was drowning, one was thriving. How are we doing this? And I was like, I need more help.
Yes.
My kids, these are our kids. And being able to be like, I actually just need you to give me like 20 minutes right here, and then having him, and then allowing him to say, well, the way you speak to me, all you do is, this is the truth. He's like, but just like the way you talk to me, and you're always like, well, and I'm just like, sure. And I was like, you know what, you're right. I have just been like barking at you, and to be able to hear him and understand and be like empathetic to the fact that like I have been a nasty bitch, and it really, it transformed our relationship.
We've never had any of these sorts of conversations, so I don't know.
We've never had this.
It's never happened.
But we've been great.
Yeah.
No, but there's something so true for women, for everyone. It's the way you say things. It's the same thing. You barking at your partner and being like, take the kids, you never take the kids, is way different than I need 35 minutes right now to get this thing done. Can you take them outside?
Yeah.
And I think depending on love languages, for those of you listening, like, there's this problem that we always talk about among the communication between men and women where men just want to fix. Well, sometimes if you just tell us what we got to fix, we'll go fix it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm losing my mind. I need the kids away from me for 45 minutes. We'll be like, okay,
By the
I
way,
know how to
that
do this.
line really works for any woman listening. That is the prime timeline. If you need, it's true. Like I've actually, like when you're like, I'm actually breaking point. Like I'm about to blow. It's like,
and let's figure out ways to get before the breaking point, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I got all the balls in the air. I can handle everything. And then look at me last week. I was out for the count for 4 days. I'm not sick.
That's me, by the way.
Right? I just I'm Taurus.
Okay. Sagittarius, but I'm very much that way. I'm like, I got it. I'm doing everything. I don't need that. I don't need you to come in until not, and then I'm drowning.
And then I'm drowning. And then then it's really hard to come out of it because I've expended all my energy and even gone into my stores, and then there's nothing left to give. So how can we use our voices without shame or guilt? He's my partner.
Right.
And this has always been an issue since we had babies, is like, I never signed a contract that said I'm the primary parent here.
Thank you.
I work too.
I slipped the contract in while you were sleeping.
Right? But like communicating about our needs, I need you to step up. Yeah. You are half this parenthood. Like this is our partnership.
Conversation a few times.
Yeah.
But it does help.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Talking it out. One more thing. Do you know what your human design is?
No.
Okay. We'll find out.
Okay. Great.
All right. We have 5 questions that we ask all of our guests.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I love it. So if we can, we don't normally do this, but I'd love to limit this to the 2 main topics that we talked about. So as we ask you these questions, either like self-development and exploration and becoming your best version, or relationships. What's the best advice you've ever received?
I really had to there's so many, but I think the best advice is to opinion shop less and to really intuitively listen to your guide. I couldn't make a decision without asking the troops. And I have really learned to trust myself and to move through most of the decisions that I've made up until this point. Some of them mostly being the hardest no's that I've ever had to do through not asking too many people, not asking people their opinions.
I love that.
Yeah. And I want to just say one thing. Also, I've also learned in the last year or so, knowing who to go to ask for their opinions. Like I was just asking all my friends the same information. Why am I asking my single 25-year-old friend for marriage advice? Bless her soul, but what am I doing to myself?
It's so true. Yeah.
So just knowing where to go to advice when you do want advice.
One of my first therapists was like, you opinion shop too much. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you turn here, maybe sit with yourself, sit with these things. And that has really, truly been a key to my success.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Going around the room and being like, no, what do you think? Of course I have soundboards, but I don't I keep a lot to myself.
Yeah. And that's tapping into your intuition because you already know.
I know.
You already know. You already know the answer. Yeah. What about your proudest moment to date? One of your most proud moments?
I would have to say that I just had it, and it's nothing extremely profound, but for Eleanor's parent-teacher conference, the teachers were like, she is so kind, and she's such they were like, when someone gets hurt or if there's conflict or something in the class, just seeing how kind-hearted she is and that she goes over and makes sure. And I was just so proud. I literally was like, if there's anything that I can teach my children, it's to be kind and compassionate. And I mean, I could go on. There's so many moments, but I think at a core level, I'm, there's nothing more important than being kind and being able to hear from people that are, have part in raising and shaping my child's experience, that they witnessed that firsthand. It was really a beautiful moment for me.
There's nothing better.
Nothing.
Awesome.
What about one of your hardest moments?
My hardest moments would be to limit relationships that no longer serve, but to still love them and to send love, but not be so readily available for the ones that can really suck you dry.
With you.
I know
so tough.
You're so good at the way that you.
I mean, but it never gets easier.
No, it's not. And saying no to something that was one of the biggest things that was ever brought to me, and just intuitively tapping into that and knowing that it was going to be the hardest no to have to do on my own, but it was the right no for this time.
Amazing.
I think I've had a lot of really hard moments in my life. I think it's right. It's like kids, business. It's like, you got to handle a lot. There's a lot of disappointments, and it's
really
and pain points and growth. Yeah.
So speaking of that, right, you have all these things and they're happening, and they can't, I mean, we talked about Corona, you talked about like relationships and finding yourself in completely different places and what relationships you came from in the past and all this stuff. You mentioned meditation. Are there any other self-care practices that, like Melissa, are like non-negotiables for you? You've got to take care of yourself in this way to make sure you can show up.
Totally. For me, it's a daily meditation and daily movement. I came from the mindset and the background that if I was not getting an hour of a workout in a day, then I didn't have enough time. And, after having Benjamin and now Eleanor, life quickly shows you that 20 minutes is really a lot of time to yourself. And my movement and meditation practice is my medicine. It's what keeps me so mentally and physically strong so that I am able to handle everything that's thrown my way. And, it looks really different every single day. And I don't put like hard rules or any expectations around it. I just really try my best to carve out this time for myself. And it's transformed my entire being.
Love it.
The commitment to it.
Love it. And that word commitment is so important, right? It's,
oh my goodness.
You don't feel like doing it every day, but once you really let it in your head that you need it, it becomes like food. It becomes like water. It's part of your survival tactic.
It's entirely part of my survival tactic.
I love it.
So this podcast is called Ignited. What ignites you?
What ignites me? Authentically just standing in your voice and your power and aligning yourself with souls who are just in the same space in your life, and that just like elevate and vibrate your entire being to really truly becoming your absolute best, the absolute best version of yourself. That is what just I am so attracted to, and I thrive. Like even this conversation, doing this with you guys, it's like this is truly what my soul needs. So I thank you so much for having me, because it's really been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thanks for, being able to connect. It's so amazing when we have guests that are just willing to go into those places, because like we said before, like it or not, we've ended up in these places where we're serving as role models, we're serving as examples. And for me, that's a commitment. There's a power that we hold, and we get to reflect to people what their best life can look like. Right.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's so much so. And I do have to tell you, just because I know, it's so funny because I'm not sober. I am not an addict. I definitely have an addictive personality, but it's been 1 year since I had a drink, and it was truly from my practice and like feeling this higher power and this like calling to just get really clear and centered. And it's funny because I just kept feeling this energy of like, there's so much to come, and like, you just need to be centered and grounded to handle it. So I was like, you know what, let me just take a month on my birthday. It was a month before my birthday, and I I didn't have a drink. And it wasn't even about like, I am restricting this thing. It was more an understanding and awareness of like, I don't even really want to drink half the time, and I'm drinking to drink. And like, let me just get really centered with myself. And then I just felt good. And then Corona happened and COVID happened, and I was like, wow, I actually think that's what it was preparing me for, because I don't know that I mentally handled not only the weight of, the growth of my business, but it was like the mental aspect. I think I could have like gone under real quick or gone dark. And it's, I share this with you, obviously, with the work that you do. And I could have a drink tonight and that's okay. Like there's no like attachment to like, I'm not drinking and I'm better. And it's been this like really interesting experience of like, wow, where is this going to go? And like, where it goes, I'm really cool with it, but I like where I am.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I know that idea of just being able to explore is so powerful for people, because we attach to, well, I'm not letting this go, or I have to let it go. Either one of those puts you in this really compromised position. So I love that you just started off with an experiment and
I can so quickly attach myself to like a thing, like I'm this, and then I'm like, well, what if I'm just like none of those things, and I'm just like trying this thing out and like, let's see where this takes me. But I wanted to throw that in there.
Absolutely love it. Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you so much. And thanks for really showing up and putting your heart in it. I think a lot of people are going to benefit.
We adore you.
I adore you. Thank you.
Hopefully we can see each other in the flesh soon.
I know.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.